6 o'clock. It is 6 o'clock, so we are going to get started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Finance Committee of the Mansfield Town Council. We have a few items on the agenda of our special meeting today. The first is to ask if there's anyone from the public who wishes to address the committee. Anybody in the room, Ryan?
Just one department head.
All righty. Then we'll move on to staff reports. Are there any staff reports?
Just the memo that's included in the packet, answering some questions from the last meeting. On the management services fund, the 51,000 that was in the miscellaneous line item. That should have been in transfer to capital for building repairs. And then just an update on the cafeteria program and the smart funds. The original smart funds ran out in December. January, February, parents had to pick up and pay, but Smart Funds 2.0 started in March. So if their parents do have balances available, they can either be carried over into next year, request a refund, or if their child happens to be going to Region 19, we can also transfer over to Region 19.
Great. Any questions on staff reports? All right, then let's move on to the next item, which is to approve our minutes from the February 13th meeting. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Terry. Is there Al will second? Is there any discussion, additions, corrections on the minutes? If not, let's vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes. All right, the next item on our agenda is new business, and we have 3 items of new business for tonight. The first one is the appointment of the auditors for the fiscal year 22-23 audit. Ryan and Sherry, do you guys want to give us a little overview?
Sure. So we did talk about this at a previous meeting because it is time to go out to bid. But given the vacancies still in the finance department and a new finance director coming on board, I felt it best to use the experienced auditors this time around. So we do have plans to go out to bid. It'll be the first quarter of 24, usually February-ish. We would issue that. CLA did provide us with a proposal to complete this 23 audit. We did see, and you saw it in your budget, a sizable increase, but all auditees are seeing this across the board. Auditors are having a really hard time retaining staff from what we're hearing. So it's not surprising. We were warned ahead of time that it would go up, but we did budget for it.
And refresh my memory, Sherry, we talked about this at the last meeting or the meeting before that, right? That this was going to be our plan for this year.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the council was very clear that this is absolutely the last extension.
Last time.
And we'll be going out to bid next time.
Okay. Is there any other questions or discussion, or someone want to make the motion?
I'll move effective May 22nd, 2023 to appoint CLA LLP as the auditing firm for fiscal year 2022-23, July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023.
And that's a motion to recommend the council do that, right?
Correct.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not written there, but yes.
Moved that the finance committee recommends that the town council do as I said earlier.
Al, you second?
I second.
Is there any discussion?
No.
If not, let's vote. All in favor, raise your hand. It is unanimous. All right, moving on. The next item on the agenda is proposed capital improvement program adjustments for fiscal 22-23. Ryan and Sherry, take it away.
So we do this at least once a year, sometimes twice. Sometimes we do it after year end, but we usually try to do it in May to try to get our projects lined up for as we're moving into the end of the year, so that if there are slight increases or decreases, we get these budgets aligned with the actual expenses. So this is a list of the items that we're looking to close out, and in some cases, adjust the funding. You'll see there are a number that this whole group from the second line on down, 7 projects or so. These were all, and could have probably been closed last year, but they are now finalized for the downtown store center project. So these are a lot of the construction grant projects that had been on the books and were still open until we finished funding the last of the local share. So that's done. And now we can officially close out those projects. We have a few other projects you'll see where we're moving a little monies from the protective clothing washer and dryer to, you know, some projects that went over their budget slightly. And then the 2 other sort of items I want to bring your attention to is one is reducing the appropriation for the community development software and putting that into the zoning and regulations. I assume this is a recommendation.
Al, can you mute yourself? You're getting a little bit of an echo.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Yes, a recommendation from the Director of Planning and Development and supported by the town manager.
So that one, and then the insurance proceeds on the fire truck. The fire truck.
Yeah, Chief, I don't know since you're here,
Yeah.
maybe you want to step up and just kind of briefly, so we had, as he's coming up, we had damage, as you'll recall, I don't know, I think a year ago now.
13 months,
And that was to
squad 307, the
Squad 307.
2014 Spartan.
So Chief will explain the rationale, but basically the extensive nature of the damage and concerns that he has, that even after, excuse me, investing the insurance proceeds, which are a little over $200,000 in this case, there are a lot of unknowns about how reliable the apparatus will be at that point. I think the term I've heard the chief use is concerned about ending up with a lemon. That's kind of an ongoing source of maintenance headaches and chasing problems. And so it's his recommendation or request that instead of investing those insurance proceeds and refurbishing the damaged Squad 307 or fixing damaged Squad 307, that it be used to refurbish Squad 207. So Chief, you want to take it away?
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. As the council's aware, back in April of last year, we had unfortunately we had an accident with Squad 307, which at the time was our workhorse running out of Station 307. Captain was alone on the truck, responding to along with myself in my car to smoke in the house up off of Passage Bridge Road. Significant damage to the truck, over $200,000 worth of damage, but because the truck was valued at $600,000, they wouldn't total it. Concerns that I have to that is if we were to fix the truck, is chasing the demons. At some point, the insurance company is going to say, we did our job, we paid for this, and now this is, you own it. And my concern is that the town would be on the hook for a long expenditure over time of chronic repairs. My members coming to me saying, Chief, the truck's not right, take it out of service, bring it to New England, because they do the work, they're gonna be married to it, and they're gonna say it's all set. Nothing wrong with it. We put it back in service, the bill comes, and it goes, eventually the insurance company's gonna put their hands up and say, we did our job. If you look at, now I'm gonna a little bit of historical.
Before you go on, could you just clarify what kind of a vehicle this is? We're talking
It's a
about-
pumper.
Okay,
it's a-
and where was the damage?
Predominantly in the rear of the truck. The rear axle was shifted. extensive body damage to the truck, but we don't know, once you stop pulling that apart, you
Yeah.
don't know if there was damage
it.
to the pump. The drive shaft connects it to the pump and connects to the transmission, so. Back in 2014 to 2019, the town purchased 3 fire apparatus, spent $1.8 million. It's pretty significant amount of money within a 5-year span. By doing what we're looking to do is so the town is not in this treadmill 20 to 25 years later to spread out the apparatus replacement. Right now, we have a reserve piece of apparatus, ET 407 and 94 PS. About 5 years ago, there was some work done to it. The truck was going to be around for another 5 years, so we're going to get an extra 10 years out of it by doing the work to it. So the idea behind this concept is to spread out the replacement for about every 10 years for the pumps. By doing it, taking the proceeds and applying it to Squad 207, which is the 04 speed grade, which right now is our workhorse out of Station 3. And getting another 10 years out of that truck, which I'm very confident in. Plus, when the Quint comes, we were going to lose the truck anyway. So in my mind, we already lost the truck. So we don't have to worry about, letting a truck go because we've already accomplished that inadvertently. Some of the other concerns about Squad.
Can I stop you to just make sure I
Sure.
understand the
Yeah.
logic?
Okay,
All right, so the pumper was in an accident. We received money from the
Insurance, yeah.
insurance. You think that putting the money into that pumper would be throwing good money after bad?
in the long run, yes.
So what will ultimately, if we don't put the money into that pumper, are we gonna just trash that pumper, or are we gonna sell it? Are we gonna-
It's going to be surplus.
So it'll just
Yeah.
stick around just in case we need it
No,
or something?
no, it's
Surplus, like we'll
it'll
get
go away.
private sale, we'll try to get what we can for value.
Yeah.
for
Which
it.
might be just for parts or,
Well,
Yeah, it could be potted out.
could be
The
good.
vendor that we're working with is also gonna give us a rough price on what we can get for it. Which wouldn't be a lot of money, but it would be put towards the refurb of Squad 207.
Are we talking about $1,000, $10,000, $100,000?
30,000.
All right, 30,000.
Alright, and those, we have this other vehicle that need work as well, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
You
Squad,
would like, and that's a solid vehicle, you would
Yes.
like to put this money into doing that work.
yes.
Well,
Um,
extend its useful life by about a decade.
Yes.
Chief believes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I was
Yeah, no,
understanding.
yeah. So when the Quint comes, we wouldn't lose any trucks because we would just put that on the line and it would have its purpose as to the operation of the fire department. Like I said, is to spread out the replacement of the pumpers. Because the Quint's going to be on its own replacement plan 30 years when it's delivered. The tanker, which was bought in between Squad 307 and ET 107, the 19 Spartan, that tanker will be here because it's built more as a support piece than it is a first due response piece. So that's going to be on its own replacement plan in about 30 to 40 years from now. So by doing this, approximately every 10 years, the town will be buying a pump through a replacement program spread out over the next 25 to 30 years. And that's the idea behind this, is to spread this out so the town 20 years from now, 25 years from now, isn't buying trucks in a 5-year span, 3 trucks, because at 1.8 million back in 19, when it was all said and done, double it plus. And and part of my job is not to put the person coming in front of me in a position to have to be back going to the town saying, I need X amount of dollars because these trucks all need to be replaced. And I think part of the reason why it was, looking back historically is when the merger took place, there were some new trucks that were bought, but now, over time, we're starting to get to the point of this is what we have, but this is what we need based on our staffing model and where the department is going. So this is what I'm proposing to do. So that way there we can spread this out because the fire apparatus isn't going to get any cheaper. It's, you figure about 3% a year, but over this last couple of years, 3% was blown out of the water by over 10, 15, 20% increases. So as things have increased, I think doing this and spreading this out and getting the best value for our apparatus will be better for the town financially, for the long run.
Chief, can you remind me when we are expecting the Quint? I know it's in process, but it's a long process, right?
We're looking at anywhere between August of 24, September 24 as of right now.
Oh, so we're a little over a year away. That's not,
And
and if, just for the sake of, why not? If we decided instead to take this insurance money and repair the vehicle, would we be expecting it back in service before that time frame?
yes, and the other part of the other part of this too is that's a big vehicle. When you look at the vehicle, it's high. The front bumper alone is 28 inches, and the reason why it was 28 inches is because there were hydraulic reels on the front of that bumper to be able to run the extrication equipment. Well, now we've started transitioning to, battery operated extrication equipment, and my recommendation would be to have the truck re-engineered, because that truck's a 100-inch cab. It's the biggest cab width-wise that they make in the industry. It's a high body, it's more of a rescue pumper, and that's the way it was spec'd. We've gone to a squad concept, and without getting into it, and I can touch more on this in the future, but if you remember, we talked about during the budget process about the small rescue truck. We're looking to get smaller vehicles, and we're looking to eventually decommission the heavy rescue, because we've gone to the squad concept and a support vehicle to bring the rest of the equipment with us. So with a lot of the streets in this town off the main drags, very small and not up to standard, it just makes it very difficult to maneuver the truck. And that where Squad 207 is a shorter wheelbase, shorter bumper, not as high off the ground as far as hose beds and putting equipment on it. I think it would be more better for the staff working off these trucks to be able to grab equipment a lot quicker than have to climb up to the hatch compartments to grab equipment off the truck. So it becomes a more safer operation.
When would this truck have been expected to go out of service?
When we got the Quint, we would have, and historically, the department has always lost a truck. When we replace a truck, get a new one, we replace one, so.
Okay, so this one wouldn't have had an expectation of a very many years left with us
3
anyway.
years, so.
Yeah. Because it would have probably been on the replacement plan of what we're looking to do with Squad 207. And the squad's been a good truck. We've run it for the last 13 months first due. And when it comes back from the refurb, it would be stationed at the outlying station, which 9 times out of 10, well, I shouldn't say 9, about 8 times out of 10, the guys are going out in the ambulance. So that's the second truck, second piece, the backup piece to the primary. And we'd be looking to take Squad ET 107, convert that to a squad, and you start utilizing that truck, the 19, which is, it's a good truck. It's basically brand new. It hasn't been used a lot. So we're looking to get that to the front line and have that as our workhorse, which is, again, it's more maneuverable, it's more compact, and we're able to carry the equipment we need.
All right, are there any other questions about this or any of the other proposed adjustments for the capital improvement program? All right, well, if not, with the exception of the fact that Leonard Hall is misspelled a couple times in the note section here, I would entertain a motion to recommend the council approve this as stated in our packet.
Yeah, I move effective May 20, 2023 to recommend to the town council to approve the adjustments to the capital projects fund as presented by the Director of Finance in a correspondence dated May 22nd, 2023.
Is there a
Second.
second? Jerry seconds. Is there any other discussion?
No.
All right, then let's vote. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, automatically raise my hand. I skipped something. I didn't skip something. Our agenda has the financial statements dated March 31st, but I do not see them in our packet.
Should have come before
Ah,
page 11 of 131.
They were only putting them in the
Oh, the
town
council
council
packet, yeah,
packets
right.
instead of putting it in both.
Yeah, so you actually have to go to the council packet for that one.
oh,
Just trying to keep you on your toes.
I was wondering, I thought there were 3 things on our agenda.
Yeah.
And then I saw only 2. All right, well, while I pull it up, why don't you guys get started with the overview?
Okay. Pretty consistent with operations for the year so far. We haven't had any real issues or major changes. So this report is going to sound very much like the one in December. Couple of items to note on the revenue side. Building permits, we've received 1.3 million so far. That's with all the new development out at the Four Corners. So that's a big chunk of the funds that are going to go to help us beefing up our fund balance at year end. So that's a good portion of that money. Typo right after that sentence, housing code permits being 144,000. They're 82.5% of the annual budget, not 8.5. No changes in state support, charge for services, or fines and forfeitures. Miscellaneous, we're still seeing good results in interest income. This is the other source of funds that's going to help us to increase our fund balance reserve. We have received through March 31st a little over $1 million in interest income as compared to 26,000 for the same period last year. Just a little different.
What's the difference? I mean, it's not market that makes that big a difference.
It has been actually plus fund balance and our investment balances, because we've also borrowed money as we're doing construction. So as state reimbursements are coming in, we've carried a higher cash balance. So
Jerry,
that
is it because the interest rate is more closely tied to what like a savings account interest rate is compared to like a stock market or otherwise, or is it?
no, it's done through the state treasurer's investment fund. So
It is invested.
it is invested. And last year at this time, we had a 0.1% interest rate. The average for July through March was 3.3%. But right now, our current rate we're receiving is 4.6. And I haven't seen 4.6 in several
Well,
years.
there's savings accounts with that rate right now.
Mhm.
So it seems like it tracks relatively closely with what the sort of going rate is for a bank's savings account.
Yeah, I could pull up the stiff investments and just see how their breakdown is, just out of curiosity, and see where they're investing. That would make sense to me. On the expenditure side, the daycare fund and the cafeteria fund are showing expenditures exceeding revenues, but on both of those funds, we have pending revenues, grants and things that are yet to come in from the state. So I expect that gap will close a bit. Parks and Recreation expenditures exceeded revenues to date by 62,000, so we've dropped a little bit. We'll see how we make out in the last quarter. But we are anticipating having to beef up the Parks and Rec fund at year end a little bit, but we should have plenty of year end savings, particularly with all this interest income, if we need to appropriate some of that to make the Parks and Recreation Fund whole, we can do that.
And Sherry, for the whole budget season, when we were projecting year-end fund balances, you were carrying an assumption that we would be subsidizing Parks and Rec a little bit more than was budgeted, or?
Most likely,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Capital non-recurring, no change there. Town Aid Road. What a great year for Town Aid Road Fund, no snow, very little, so that allowed us to actually build that fund balance up a little bit, so that in next year's budget, we actually included $150,000 from this fund to help support capital items. So it's kind of nice when we get a year in there like that. No change to debt service. We did sell bonds and notes not too long ago. I think Ryan already gave you an update on that. The other two big funds, Health Insurance Fund and Management Services Fund, both running on budget, and as are all the other little funds. So nice clean report, actually. I won't go through all the financials, but if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to take them.
Is there any questions about the financials?
It's like Al's got.
Al.
Al, yes.
Hi, sorry, hit the wrong button. I apologize. Before I have a comment before I go into just a couple of questions. Sherry, I wanted to thank you for getting us through here on your interim position. You got us through to the finish line. I understand that we got a finance director coming in next meeting, I guess. So thank
Yep.
you.
Yep.
I was looking at the daycare fund and sort of walk me through that. We got building supplies, which are up tremendously from budget, as are repairs. But program stabilization and revenue and school readiness grants, I guess, aren't received yet. And now are these tied to each other? Are we gonna, when does the school readiness grant kick in and the program stabilization?
Usually we've received some school readiness at this point, so I will need to follow up on that. That's almost like an internal funding mechanism. I'm trying to remember how that one works now, because we actually fill out and make payments out of one fund into the daycare fund for these school readiness slots, because it's the town that gets the school readiness grant. So I'll have to make sure that those have been processed, but once those are processed, I know they're due to get those revenues. It's not like they're not coming in. In fact, I think they were hoping to take, I think they were approved for a couple of more school readiness slots. So I'll follow up on that for you. And program stabilization, yeah, just hasn't come in yet.
Okay. Yeah, because I know today's the 22nd of May. It's just a little over a month before June 30th comes around. So, okay.
Yep. Yep.
Cool. And the only other question I had was on the Management Services Fund. I was just wondering about the copier maintenance fees. That went up tremendously, but yet we're budgeting the same. And is it just like a big bump in 1 year, or?
Yes, so that's a really good question, because we did have an issue there. So over the last 2 years, the copiers were not replaced on the same replacement schedule that we had been doing. So consequently, some of the copiers were getting much older. The service calls were increased. They were having trouble getting parts. So we saw a big increase. The past, let's see, this is May, right? So in February, Jamie Russell and I met with our supplier and talked about all those machines and where they were and why, you know, our costs were going through the roof. So what we did was negotiate a different agreement so that we did sort of a blended rate for the copiers. And so that we now have one single service rate we're paying instead of, you know, 30 different rates for all the different machines. The other thing we did was go ahead and purchase a whole bunch of machines, but we were able to get like refurbished machines, ones that were very low volume machines that had been like demos in places that they had used for demos. We were able to get a significant cost reduction. So we, you know, with the low copy number, especially depending on where that copier was going, that'll give us a full 7 to 8 year life, and it saved us a lot of money. The reason we went for that too was because we were so far behind in our replacement schedule that we had a lot of machines that really needed to be replaced. And, you know, I didn't really want to, you know, come out with, you know, $150,000 worth of copier machines to be replaced at one time. So, so we put in these refurbished machines, they're guaranteeing us that they're going to get us the same life that we got out of our other machines. So we're hoping.
Thank you.
Okay. I mean, the good thing is that some of the, you know, that additional cost, we had monies because we didn't replace machines in the year before. We had monies available in the fund to do the additional replacements. So that helped as well. Anything else on the finance statements? No.
Good, Al. Okay. Terry, you have any questions? All right, well, there is a motion in our packet. There isn't a motion in our packet. I would just ask to put these in the finance committee packet. We're not really printing packets anymore, so we're not saving paper by not printing them twice. It just, if someone's trying to track down committee work or whatever in the future, it would be helpful to have it all in one place.
Sure.
So would someone like to move to recommend the council approve the financial statements?
So moved.
Al, you second? All right. Any other discussion? Not, let's vote. All in favor, raise your hand. All right,
Oh,
passes unanimously. On to the council. Most of these, if not all of these things, are on our consent agenda for tonight. I think all of them, is that correct?
Yep.
So we will hopefully breeze through them quickly. If not, we will talk about them in a couple minutes. There's nothing else on our agenda. Is there any communications or future agenda items or other business anyone has? All right, if not, then a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Moved by Terry, seconded by
Second.
Al. Raise your hand. We are adjourned. We will see you all in a few minutes for the council meeting. Have a good night.